Dan, thank you very much for that very thorough overview of the world and what's at play. I'll recognize members based upon seniority for up to 5 minutes. Chair recognizes himself. Admiral Rogers, according to the statement for the record, the intelligence community assesses that most detected Chinese cyber operations against the United States private industry are focused on cleared defense contractors or IT and communications firms whose products and services support government and private sector networks nationwide. Rate the intelligence community's performance when it comes to notifying clear defense contractors and other sensitive private sector actors about malicious cyber activities on their networks.
So first, in all honesty, you're asking me to rate a function for which I don't have responsibility or day-to-day execution. So I'll give you an opinion, but it's not informed by day-to-day experience per se. This is an issue both as NSA and as Cyber Commando. I try to work very aggressively because, as you have outlined, this is a tremendous concern for us as a department. Clearly, I think we are not where we need to be. The challenge, I think, is we've got multiple areas of knowledge and insight across the federal government, within the private sector, and how do we bring this together in an integrated team with some real-time flow back and forth? That is not where we are today, but that's where we've got to get to.
In your estimation, are we doing enough to warn the private sector of the threat that's out there?
I think we are informing them as we become aware of it, but one of my concerns is we're only going to see one slice of this picture. I'm also interested in, from the private sector's perspective, tell us what you are saying, and if we can bring these two together, we'll have such a broader perspective and much more in-depth knowledge of what's happening. I think that's part of this. It's not just, hey, one side needs to do a better job. I'm not trying to say it's a two-sided, but I think it's our ability to bring this together as a team.
Given that you've seen the difficulty, especially this committee and the intelligence community has had communicating with tech companies about a way forward that is in commonality, are you concerned at how this is going to become an increasingly challenging landscape for both Congress and for the intelligence community working as we see new tech firms emerge every day?
Yes, I am, because quite frankly, I wonder, so how bad does this have to get before we realize we have to do some things fundamentally differently? And I would argue, if you look at the Internet of Things, you look at the security levels within those components, folks, this is going to orders of magnitude. If we think the problem is a challenge now, we just wait, it's going to get much, much worse exponentially from a security perspective.
Director Pompeo, the IC assesses that North Korea is likely to press ahead with more tests in 2018 missile tests, noting that North Korea's foreign minister indicated an atmospheric nuclear test over the Pacific may be under consideration by Pyongyang. What's the IC assess the regional reaction to this kind of test would be?
Senator, thanks for your question. And if I may just take 1 minute to say, I've been doing this a year now, and I want to express my appreciation to this committee for helping the CIA do the things it needs to do, providing us the resources and the authorities we need. And we've put a lot of effort against this very problem. You've all been incredibly supportive of that. And so my team thanks you for that. We think a test like that would certainly further unite the region. Having said that, our sense is that we have built a global coalition pushing back against Kim Jong-un and his terror regime. With respect to what each particular country might do, I'd prefer to keep that conversation to closed session this afternoon.
Great. What's the IC's assessment of North Korea's willingness to employ its expansive conventional military capabilities?
Senator, one of the things that Director Coates referred to in his opening remarks is that Kim Jong-un remains not only intent on staying in power, that the thing all dictators prefer to do, right? Die in their sleep fully at the peak of their power. But he has this mission that is a longstanding North Korean idea of reunification. And their capacity to use a nuclear umbrella combined with their conventional forces to exert coercive behavior, certainly inside their country, certainly against South Korea, but more broadly, is something that our analysts are continuing to look at. We can see as they ratchet up their nuclear capability, making a response more difficult, their capacity to do harm in the region as a result of their incredible conventional capabilities alone increases.
Probably for General Ashley and Admiral Rogers. According to statements for the record, the widespread proliferation of artificial intelligence is likely to prompt new national security concerns. How's the IC accounting for the possibility that these new national security concerns? Are we seeing indications now that our adversaries are working to harness emerging technologies like artificial intelligence? And is the IC looking to maximize the potential of emerging technologies in our own processing and analysis of data and intelligence?
So if I could take the first shot at that one. So as you look at DIA, and thanks for all the support the committee provides to the Defense Intelligence Agency. So if you look at our core mission, it's, you look at foreign militaries and the operational environment. So this is central to looking at doctrine and what they're developing. When you think about artificial intelligence, our near-peer competitors are pursuing this, and it's a lot of commercial technology that's available. But when you look at the volume and big data and what's available, the ability to digest and pull all that information in, artificial intelligence is going to be integral to that. Use an example of one of the projects we work on, and this is at the open source level, Project Maven. You look at full motion video, for example, or social media. In full motion video, you're never going to be able to afford the workforce that's going to be able to go through all the material, whether it's video, whether it's what Admiral Rogers works in the way of signals intelligence, or what's available in the social media. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, which is really kind of where we are right now. It's more machine learning than it is artificial intelligence. We're seeing all of our near-peer competitors invest in these kinds of technologies because it's going to get them to decision cycles faster, allow them to digest information in greater volumes, and have a better situational understanding of what's happening in the battle space, and in some cases, just what's happening in the strategic environment.
So I would agree with General Ashley. I'd also highlight every organization on this table is faced with the challenge of victims of our own success in some ways. The ability to access data at increased levels brings its own set of challenges. So we are collectively all attempting to deal with this. When I look at potential adversaries, I see them going through the same set of challenges. I would argue when I look at the PRC in particular, there clearly is a national strategy designed to harness the power of artificial intelligence to generate strategic outcomes, many along the lines that General Ashley highlighted, to generate positive outcomes for them. If you look at their research, you look at how it is affecting the amount of data they are going after. I can remember 5-10 years ago looking at some data concentrations and thinking to myself, this is so large and has such a disparate amount of information in it. Boy, it would be really difficult for an opponent potentially to generate insight and knowledge from it. I don't have those kinds of conversations anymore. With the power of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and big data analytics, data concentrations now increasingly are targets of attraction to a whole host of actors. And you have watched the PRC and others engage in activity designed to access these massive data concentrations.
If I could follow up on that one also, because this is one of those areas that's available in the commercial industry. So you see a lot of investment, academia and others that are pursuing this. And so there's a key piece of this I think it's worth addressing as well, which is how do you operationalize it? So you go back and if I could just use kind of a World War II example, the fact that there were planes, radios, and tanks was not unique to the Germans in World War II. What they did is they came up with an operational concept that allowed them to leverage that. And Peter Singer, if anyone's ever read Wired for War, A Ghost Fleet, is a futurist. And we sat a panel with him a couple of years ago, and it was interesting when I asked him, as you look at the things that are emerging, the technology and things that are coming out, what do you see in the way of breakthrough that gives somebody a really marked advantage? And Peter's comment wasn't that I see something that gives someone such a marked advantage. It's who's able to harness it, who's able to operationalize it, and put it to effect. And so that's really a key difference, is a lot of that technology is going to be available globally.
Thank you.
If I could just ask your permission here. Robert Cardillo's agency, NGA, has probably taken a very significant lead on this, given the enormous volume of collection that they take and the inability to process that through the use of humans. I've asked Robert to be prepared to answer that question for you, because I think they're taking some leading efforts that might be helpful.
Great.
I think it's important to note at the front what hasn't changed. Quite frankly, the mission, the responsibility this whole table has is to provide you with decision advantage. What's changed is the world around us and now within us. And so what we used to hold exclusively, because we had capabilities that others didn't, is now more shared. And so, as Admiral Rogers has said, this is something that we all lock arms on, because it isn't the access that is exclusive anymore, it's the use. It's the concept of operations, as General Ashley said. I have the same concerns you do about getting the cooperation we need from these companies. I'm rather optimistic about it, because I think at the end of the day, we can advance the American economy, we can advance American entrepreneurship, and we can advance our understanding of the world in a way that gets back to that first step, which is decision advantage.
Rest assured, processing of data will come up in our closed session with you. I've got you targeted.